Welcome to Volume 1 of the Cups and Balls. What do we mean when we say the Cups and Balls is a classic? Magic scholar John Rockerbomber defines classic with a handy acronym, SAVOR, which means, by the way, distinctive quality or property. That stands for simplicity, ageless, visualness, open, and recurring. Let's take a look at these words. Simplicity. In a classic, the props are simple and immediately understood. In the case of the Cups and Balls, the props are cups, balls, and a wand. These props are not only instantaneously recognizable, but everything that happens with them is easily understood. All actions are straightforward, the effects are direct, and there should be no confusion. Ageless. Classics survive through time and have historical continuity. Thousands of magicians in every era have taken the basic effect and developed countless variations. Yet the trick itself never loses its power to capture, hold, and amuse any kind of audience in any kind of venue, any place, any time. Visualness. This refers to the strong eye appeal of the effects. I'm talking about robust primary effects, vanishes, productions, penetrations, and transformations. These are perhaps the mighty four of the so-called 18 basic effects in magic. Open. Most classics aren't a closed system. They are an open system that permits variation, flexibility, interpretation. Because classics consist of analyzable components, they can be linked and unlinked in a great number of ways. This allows magicians, namely you, to freely improvise and tailor your own routine. My central goal as a teacher is to give you rudimentary parts or components, the vital tools, then show you how they are applied in an open system. Recurring. This refers to how effects which seem to have repetitive sequences actually work together to create a much more powerful cumulative effect. Here on Volume 1, we'll build a firm, solid foundation that will provide all the support you'll need to build a strong understanding and performance of the classic Cups and Balls. In theory, any cup could be considered a potential prop. I once saw Di Vernon perform the Cups and Balls with 3 simple paper cups. On one hand, this sort of versatility is considered great, but in practice, the difficulties he faced because the cups were so light and flimsy made me think that if you don't have the cups you're accustomed to, or if you haven't practiced and prepared for such conditions, it's probably better to perform some other effect at that time. But if you've prepared for it, then you might do as Michael Skinner did back in the mid-70s, when he performed on The Tonight Show using 3 coffee cups. Or you might do as some printed impromptu routine suggests, and roll paper around clear glasses. The least expensive cups available are the small plastic cups which often come with magic sets. These allow room between the cups that make basic nesting sequences possible. But depending on where you perform, you might need to rationalize the use of such inexpensive pieces of plastic as props. The basic construction of a good set of cups and balls allows for a ball to be secretly nested in between the cups without being detected. This is usually the result of the second rim, as well as the reason for the slight recess on top of the cup. The Paul Fox cups I use were designed to appear smaller than the load which would actually fit inside the cup. In fact, Francis Carlyle apparently made a bar bet on whether he could completely cover a lacrosse ball with a Paul Fox cup. The subtle design of the cup was such that he often won drinks simply by covering the ball with the cup. Personally, I prefer fairly heavy cups. My sets weigh a pound, but there are other sets even heavier. Probably the most common set of balls used by magicians are little pieces of cork which have been crocheted over. I prefer tiny baseballs which were hand-sewn by Mike Rogers because the threads prevent the balls from rolling around too much. Other possibilities include rolled up currency, rubber balls, sponges, olives, grapes, or crumpled paper. Max Malini often cut a piece off the cork from a bottle, then would cut that cork disc into quarters. This would provide him the 3 balls that were visible while also giving him an identical extra ball. There is a great deal of latitude when it comes to what you finally end up with as a final load for your routine. The most fundamental consideration is whether you want the final load to be congruent to the little balls that you started the routine with, or incongruent to the little balls used in the opening sequence. For example, if you use the crocheted balls, a congruent load would be a larger crocheted ball. If you use the Mike Rogers sewn baseballs, a congruent final load would be the larger baseballs, which, by the way, Mike is also able to provide. The classic example of an incongruent load would have to be fruit. I prefer fruit because Di Vernon always spoke highly of the extra surprise factor behind such final loads. Bob Reed, speaking from 30 years' experience, says an incongruent, surprising final load will generate at least 50% more reaction than a final load which seems coordinated or congruent with the article used in the preceding sequences. Don Allen, when discussing final loads, has reason to speak in terms of hard loads versus soft loads. When Don performed his famous bowl routine, he would end with a large still nut beneath his metal bowl. Max Malini, when performing a similar routine under a hat, was known to produce a block of ice. These types of hard load carry an extra degree of impact and a greater perception of impossibility, both of which are deserved as it synthesizes all the considerations which surround it. One method you might consider for help, if you choose to perform with a hard load, is to line the inside of your cups with felt. With this, you might reduce the sound problems that could accompany such loads. Finally, other options for final loads might be small chickens, sands, and even water. As long as it's surprising and has a positive impact, you are literally limited only by your imagination. To an audience, the wand is both a symbol and a source of power, whose wave and tap is catalytic to the magic taking place. To a magician, it's the perfect way to cover the concealment of another object in the same hand, a justification for the timely transfer of objects from one hand to the other, and a psychological red herring which misdirects viewers away from what is actually taking place. The reason it's so effective at providing concealment is because people normally perceive the human hand as a one-function appendage. So if they see it doing one thing, such as holding, waving, or tapping something with the wand, they rarely consider that hand might be doing something else at the same time, such as holding on to a concealed ball. But it also helps rationalize certain flows of traffic from hand to hand as you pick it up, set it down, or place it away. If you are performing a routine in some social situation or after dinner, you obviously don't have to use a wand. You could also use a knife, straw, or you could even pick up one of the other cups to provide the misdirection or cover at the appropriate time. Since we'll all be using some of the same language, here's a quick list of terms. This is the mouth of the cup. When we say put the cup's mouth up, this is what we mean. And when we say mouth down, this is what we mean. This is the top of the cup, a fact which is obvious only to magicians, because to most people, this is the bottom of the cup. Primarily, magicians know these cups are designed to be mouth down, so we refer to this as the top. When the cups are put together mouth up, with the top of the upper cup going into the mouth of the lower cup, that's known as nesting. When the cups go together mouth down, with the mouth of the upper cup going over the top of the lower cup, that's known as stacking. When a ball or load is concealed in the hand, this is known as holding out. Whether you use the classic palm, the thumb palm, or the finger palm, it's known as holding out. If I put a ball into the opposite hand, that's a transfer. If I take a ball, that's a transfer. But if I only seem to put a ball in my hand, that's known as a fake transfer. And of course, if I just seem to take a ball, that's known as a fake transfer as well. Fake transfers are sometimes referred to as passes or as making a pass. There's a card move, which is also referred to as a pass, but that's something different. In the cups and balls world, the term pass and fake transferred are considered interchangeable. A steal is a secret move to obtain something. You can steal a ball from a cup, or you can steal a load from your pocket. The act of loading something can take three forms: a secret load, an actual load, and a fake load. You can secretly load a ball into a cup, or you might secretly load a final load into a cup. Then there is the actual visible loading of a cup, just as there is the actual fake loading of a cup. When a hand is holding out an object, it is referred to as the dirty hand. You might also have a dirty pocket or cup, depending on the actions taking place. If a hand, pocket, or cup is empty, it's referred to as being clean. Secretly getting rid of something which is being held out is known as cleaning up. The inertia move is one of the most basic maneuvers we'll use repeatedly, and it's that act of setting a cup onto the table without revealing that something is still contained inside of the cup. Inertia being what it is, even without rushing, it's easy to set a cup down while concealing an object without revealing it inside. The most basic technique a routine can be developed around takes advantage of the possibilities provided by the nesting ability of the cups. The space between nested cups provides a perfect spot for hiding 1, 2, or even 3 balls. By combining the concepts of nesting along with the inertia move, many effects are possible. For example, if you wanted to be 2 balls ahead, you could begin with a ball inside of the bottom and middle cups. You could begin by pouring out 3 balls and then set the cups mouth down on the table, 1 cup at a time. Because the inertia move kept the ball inside the cups until they were mouth down, you would then be 2 balls ahead. Now that shows how the use of nesting and the inertia move can put you ahead. But now let's look at how those same ideas can be used to create the effect that a ball has penetrated the top of one of the cups. So you begin with the extra ball secretly nested in the center cup and place the cups mouth down onto the table. The extra ball is under the middle cup. Place one of the visible balls on top of the middle cup, nest the other 2 cups on top of this, then pick up the stack to show a ball has apparently penetrated the top of the cup. Once again, place the cups on the table and you will have secretly added the previously nested ball to the one which is visible on the table. You could now, if you wanted, repeat the effect. And continuing, you can cause all 3 balls to penetrate to the table. Although we've just scratched the surface of our topic, we can use that information to create a simple routine. using 3 cups and 4 balls, and the audience will only be aware of 3 of those balls. The 4th is nested inside the middle cup. Use the inertia move to place the cups mouth down on the table. Place one of those balls on top of the middle cup and nest the other 2 cups on top to cause the penetration. Okay? Continuing, place the second ball on top, nest the cups, and show that a second one is penetrated. To show the ball has penetrated a 3rd time, snap, just like this, and use the inertia move to show that a 3rd ball is penetrated. To conclude, you say, this time I'm even going to get rid of one of the cups. Now the cup that you get rid of is going to be the cup which has the ball hidden inside of it. So you set that over to one side. You offer to repeat it one last time, and as you apparently cause the penetration to take place, show that nothing is there, and then for a kicker surprise, show that the ball has apparently traveled to the opposite cup. Of course, this first layer of information, along with this opening application, doesn't make someone a magician. That's because the actual mechanical secrets only constitute a small part of what magic is all about. A piece of glass cut with one smooth surface has nothing inside itself to reflect against, so it becomes transparent. Magic could suffer the same fate if you depend only on the mechanical or technical secrets. However, if that surface is only one facet of many, they reflect and synergize off each other, creating an entirely different result. The resourceful magician also understands principles of human psychology and applies the elements of theater to maximize the overall impact on the viewer. By studying the cups and balls, we have an excellent vehicle for putting into context several vital and highly transferable principles of magic. One at a time during this video, we'll focus closely on the 4 most important fundamental magical skills you should think about as we go along. Robert Houdin said, "A magician is an actor playing the role of a magician." Someone else said that Robert should have said that a magician is an actor playing the role of a great magician. I've also heard it said that if Hollywood had a part calling for a magician, then an actor would play that role better than a magician would. The ability to non-verbally communicate the effect which seems to be taking place requires you to disconnect yourself from the method which is actually taking place. That's what actors do, and that's what magic is all about. Clear concepts, convincingly acted out in a particular sequence, will maximize the impact of magic. So be aware of how your face, your eyes, and your body can say things that are, in many ways, more convincing than words. This doesn't mean overact. Good acting typically boils down to natural and appropriate reacting. So disconnect yourself from your personal awareness of the ball actually palmed in your hand and react naturally as the magic is taking place. Then transfer that knowledge to other effects in your repertoire. Just as each sequence in a cups and balls effect has to be clear and convincingly acted out, so does each phase, for example, of an illusion. Don't just race to pull the sawn person apart. be sure to act as if you cut them apart first. Moving a little deeper into our topic, the true introduction to the application of sleight of hand begins with understanding the different methods we use to hold out or to palm objects. The finger palm is the easiest, most basic method of holding out. Yet many experts still consider this to be the most effective method because it leaves the hand in such a natural position. All you have to do is curl the fingers naturally around whatever is at the base of the fingers, and then forget that you're doing anything deceptive. By handling a wand, a cup, or another ball, you add further to the deceptive appearance of an otherwise empty hand. The thumb palm, you use the crotch of the thumb to conceal an object. This also allows you to keep the hand in a natural position while doing other things. To place a ball into the thumb palm, simply roll it there with the index and middle fingers as you execute some sort of fake transfer action. The classic palm is, just as the name says, the classic perception of a palm. David Roth equates the ability to secretly palm an object to having 2 extra fingers, because you get to hold something in your hand while still having access to the use of the other fingers. This is a fundamental technique in magic, and yet personally, I don't use it in my cups and balls routine because I find the technique more effective with coins and cards than with balls. And it's actually more effective to use the finger palm in most cups and balls applications. If you should choose to use the classic palm yourself, always try to keep the dirty hand occupied with either a wand or a wand substitutes. There are 2 classic palming mistakes you'll want to avoid, and that is either holding the fingers as if you're having a cup of tea and these 2 stick out like this, and the other is to have the classic starfish shape to the fingers like this. So if you check yourself out in front of the mirror and one hand looks like this and the other hand looks like this, don't correct your mistake by doing this. Now, let's look at the fake transfer of an object from one hand to the other. We'll examine a version of the fake put and a version of the fake take. Finally, we'll look at ways of going into and coming out of the fake transfer. In the French drop, you will be duplicating the action of taking a ball from the opposite hand. This taking action can be duplicated with either hand. Hold the ball in your left hand with the left fingers pointing up, and hold the ball between the tip of the left thumb and the left fingers. The right hand approaches with the back of the hand outward, and the thumb goes below the ball. To duplicate the natural action better, actually take the ball a couple of times and notice how it should look and feel. Notice that after the ball is taken, the left hand turns naturally to rest on the table. You are going to try to duplicate that exact action. Only this time, instead of taking the ball in the right hand, the left thumb releases it while continuing to stay in that position. The ball drops into the left finger palm, just as the right hand closes, and the left hand finger palms the ball as it turns and lowers. It shouldn't take long for the timing and rhythm of the hands to be able to duplicate the actual taking of the ball. Practice this in front of a mirror to check and see how it looks. And finally, try to check how it looks with a video camera. This is a very effective way to see exactly how your techniques work. Now, once you learn it with one hand, you'll find it's pretty easy to pick it up with the other hand as well. The classic method of passing a ball from one hand to another duplicates a method of putting a ball into the hand, as opposed to taking the ball. This is one of the most basic building blocks of magic, so let's look at this action closely. If I want to duplicate the action of putting this ball into my hand successfully, I have to understand first the true action of putting this ball into my left hand. Notice how natural it looks for the fingers to be lightly curled as the hands rest on the table. Since that's how my fingers look naturally, I'm going to have my fingers and hands look the same way when they're holding out. So to minimize all movements, I start out with my hands in that position and pick the ball up with that grip. The opposite hand is timed to turn palm up just as the ball arrives. The ball just touches the opposite hand, and as those fingers begin to curl up as if closing over the ball is rolled back into the finger palm by the thumb as the original hand turns down and moves away. And the hand apparently holding the ball simulates the shape of that ball with the fingers. So it looks just like this, and it vanishes. Another way of putting a ball is to drop it from the palm up hand into the opposite hand. This is really just a simplification of the classic pass, only here, as you turn the right hand palm down, the third and little fingers curl in to hold the ball as the left hand turns palm up. All you have to do is retain it in the original hand by curling those fingers, and that's covered by the opposite fingers curling up as if to conceal and to hold on to the ball. As Vernon would remind us, it's always important to have some place to go after the move takes place. By providing a continuing action following the transfer, as well as covered during the act of concealment, the wand serves the double duty in most routines. You can take advantage of this either by placing the wand under the arm or by placing it onto the table. As the fake transfer takes place, as soon as the opposite fingers curl up enough to provide cover, the original hand moves toward the wand in order to make the magic happen. The wand helps rationalize the transfer from one hand to the other, as well as provide natural cover for the palming of the ball. Secretly loading a ball into a cup is one of the most fundamental of the fundamentals. Beginning with a ball in finger palm position, all you have to do is pick the cup up and set it back down, releasing the ball as you do. Keep the cup as flat to the table as possible and avoid flicking your wrist in order to propel the ball into the cup. All you have to do is set the cup down and the ball goes right into it. The pickup of the cup can be motivated by simply showing what's under the cup, or, as I often do, you can have a ball on top of the cup. And in order to get the visible ball, you pick up the cup to toss it into the opposite hand, loading that cup with the finger palm ball as you do. The thumb palm can be used to drop something into a mouth-up cup as you reach over it to pick something up, or as you reach to turn over a cup. If turning over a cup, you'd continue to hold the ball inside with the little finger as you set the cup down. You could secretly load a ball into a cup using the classic palm if you choose to use it, again by reaching over the cup, and again using the little finger to hold it inside as you place the cup back onto the table. The classic cover for secretly loading a cup begins with one visible ball resting on top of the cup and a second ball hidden inside of either hand. The clean hand opens palm up in front of the cup as the dirty hand tips the cup forward, tipping the ball into the palm up hand. The front edge of the cup remains on the table as the back lifts up just enough to sneak the palmed ball inside the cup. Here's what it looks like. This is a classic move, but personally, I think it feels and looks more natural when used while you're sitting down as you perform. That's because both hands would just move forward to their normal position. But when you're standing up, things are a little different. Now think about it. If I want that ball in my left hand, The easiest, and therefore the most natural thing, would be to simply pick it up with the left hand. So it doesn't really feel right for me to pass the ball up, lean my whole body forward, and use both hands just to get possession of that ball. So instead, as I mentioned earlier, I prefer to keep the focus of my attention up and forward as I pick the cup up, gently tossing the ball into the opposite hand as I load from the finger palm. Again, using the finger palm, balls can be secretly loaded into cups, which are nested either mouth up or mouth down. This is a minor natural extension of the table loading method previously described, and it can easily be done with either or with both hands. This is a method for stealing a ball from a cup which is on the table. You begin by lifting the cup between your thumb and first finger at the base. This leaves the third and little fingers free to go under the cup as soon as it clears the table. They curl around the ball, pulling it into finger palm. Now you can do this either as you first cover the ball to steal it out, or if a ball is inside of the cup, you can apparently lift the cup to show that it's empty. Attention should be somewhat misdirected at the actual moment the sleight takes place. This is actually more of a method for showing a cup empty without actually stealing the ball out. As the cup is picked up by the base, the little finger goes into the cup and presses the ball against the inside edge of the cup. And in this way, the cup can appear to be empty even though there's a ball inside. And again, all you have to do is just hold it inside with the little finger. Picking the cup up particularly near the base allows you to do something interesting. As before, the third and little fingers are used to steal the ball into finger palm position, at which point you allow the cup to spin mouth outward between the thumb and first fingers. This way, not only do you show there's nothing on the table, but that there's nothing in the cup either. If you have a ball nested between two cups that are stacked mouth down, you can use the little finger to hold the ball inside the cup as you separate them, or you could go ahead and steal that ball into the finger palm position. What happens is this: the little finger of the right hand extends and forms a ledge that the ball rests on as the cups separate. You can then re-nest the cups, or, as I said earlier, you could also steal that ball into the finger palm position. I developed a method for stealing a nested ball, which I haven't seen in print, but when you consider the limited number of ways there are to handle these cups, it's easy to think others have probably done the same or similar movements. Let's assume the nested cups are mouth up with a ball in between. The index finger of the right hand is going to hit the bottom cup, pivoting it forward. The cup turns mouth up between the index finger of the right hand and the middle finger of the left hand. The ball rolls into the right's finger palm. As the left hand shows its cup empty, the cup in the right hand pivots around to show itself empty while covering the ball that's finger palmed in the right hand. Timing is everything. Silence, space, strategic pauses, These uses of time become theatrical punctuation marks that maximize the impact of the communication. In music, it's said that the silence and the space between the notes are responsible for as much of the beauty of music as the notes themselves. So as you watch and later apply some of the ideas we'll cover, notice how the use of time contributes to the impact of what's done. Personally, I used to perform much more quickly than I do right now because I thought speed contributed to deception and that quickness somehow made the magic more visual. Somehow, I had accepted the premise that the more visual magic is, the better it must be. Now I realize that magic doesn't have to be visual in order to engage the imagination of the viewer. Engaging the audience's imagination has more to do with construction and having the courage to trust the other secrets enough to slow down, pause, and actually allow them to think about what's taking place. Because if you do everything else right, it's during these moments that their imagination goes to work, and they create methods and scenarios that are generally much more interesting and impossible than what's actually happening. Another way to use time is to create a momentum to what you're doing, which can ultimately help you cover your past tracks and make accurate reconstruction impossible. For example, if I make a ball vanish only to reappear inside of a cup, the proper use of timing has created the momentum which has concealed the techniques I've used. Vernon used to say, "How do you come out of it?" In other words, what is the continuing movement? He asked this because pausing at the wrong time destroys momentum and allows the audience to engage its imagination at the wrong time. Here's a common phrase people use that'll illustrate what I mean. "I lost my car keys yesterday. I looked all over the house and I didn't find them until the very last place I looked." Well, of course, that'll always be true, because once you find what you're looking for, you quit looking. And conversely, you keep looking until you find what you're looking for. Now here's where that applies to magic. See, if I waited too long after performing the fake transfer which accomplished the vanish of the ball, and if the audience is paying attention, they should begin to wonder and look for where that ball might have gone. If I continue to wait 1 or 2 more seconds, many might start to wonder whether that ball might actually be in the other hand. However, if I use timing to create momentum, I begin by vanishing the ball, and then with just a moment's pause, I show where that ball is now. And as impossible as it might actually be, they quit looking for where it actually is because it seems as if they found it. Then, again, because of the momentum of continuing action, I can continue to make reconstruction impossible by allowing confirmation in retrospect. See, I can vanish the ball and then pick up the cup to show where it went, and then secretly load that ball back into the cup so that both hands ultimately end up as empty. The classic method used to simulate the action of placing the ball into the cup involves tilting the cup back with one hand, while the opposite hand scoops the ball under the cup. After executing the actual placement a couple of times, you'll know exactly what action you'll want to duplicate. To finger palm the ball, all you have to do is roll it back with your thumb. Actually, scooping a ball under a cup just takes an instant, so the palming action has to be done quickly. Then just set the cup down and continue on with the routine. Here's what it looks like in natural rhythm of action. And obviously this move can be done with either hand. This is the same action, only don't roll the ball back into the finger palm. Instead, clip the ball between the ring and middle fingers as you simulate the scooping action under the cup. Another possible way of doing this is to just scoop this way, because that's a pretty natural action, just to scoop underneath the cup. All you'll do is just hang on to the ball with the right little finger, as apparently you just scoop it underneath the cup. And again, once mastered, these moves can be done with either hand. This is the fake take to fake load. The key benefit here is the additional layer of deception you get from having executed the fake transfer, because the apparent loading hand ultimately is seen to be empty. To begin, fake the transfer into the opposite hand, and the natural following action for both hands is then built into the movement. The hand that's holding out is occupied by picking up the cup, and the opposite hand gets to move away from the loading action while showing itself empty. This method of faking the load into a cup has a relatively interesting history in that while I came up with it independently in the late 70s, I eventually discovered it in print while I was researching for this project. It was printed in an old manuscript with no credit mentioned, so I assume it's one of those moves which has been around for really quite some time. This provides an important reminder. When working on classical material and facing a common problem, whether it's stealing a ball from a nested cup or faking the load into a cup, there's a great probability that others have solved the problem in much the same way. So the more research you do, the less likely you'll need to reinvent the wheel. But in any case, in this move, you tilt the cup forward with the right hand as the opposite hand pinches the ball, squirting it beneath the cup. Actually, it rolls all the way across and into the opposite finger palm. By keeping the front of the cup very close to the table, you prevent the ball from flashing to the audience as it rolls across and into the opposite hand. This somewhat unusual move will give you one more option at faking both a transfer and a load, depending on how you want to handle it. One hand picks up the cup at the base and turns palm up, while also turning the cup mouth up. The opposite hand drops the ball into the cup. As you simulate pouring the ball back into the opposite hand, actually finger palm it in the left hand. Now you can make the ball disappear, or you could fake the load back into the cup. Now we have a special treat. Easily one of Magic's most entertaining stand-up performers, whom I'm proud to call friend, has spent the last 25 years researching the ancient origins and the development of the cups and balls through the graphic art of the period. He has painstakingly built a comprehensive collection of prints and engravings on this subject and is considered the leading authority on these old performers and the images captured of the cups and balls. But it's not just a hobby, as you'll see. Careful examination of these images has provided fascinating insights and understandings which we get to share. This insert comes all the way from London, England, where master magician Bob Reed will throw some light on the cups and balls.
So far we've talked about where the trick was performed, why it was performed, how the people were dressed, the location, the gestures, and the various other tricks. Now let's get specific. Let's talk about the actual cups that were used and why they were so popular. Let's talk about the little balls, the loads, the magic wand, the cloth, maybe even the table. Stay with me and we'll have a look at a few more old prints and see what else we can learn about this wonderful old classic. First of all, how many cups were normally used? You know, in over 99% of all the prints I have seen, 3 cups were used. Sure, the Bosch magician shows 2 and Bosco used 5, but these are the exceptions. 3 cups, like the 3 card trick and the 3 shell game, offer the audience just one too many options for them to be comfortable. 3 has the potential to wrong foot the audience. It keeps them guessing. They're a little bit uncertain. 3 cups are far less predictable than a single cup routine. And don't tell me about the wonderful Don Allen routine or the Freddie Katz routine or the masterful Paul Daniels routine, all of which use one container. I'm talking about us mere mortals, not the exceptions. We need every advantage we can get. Psychologically, 3 is a good number. It's like the build-up to a joke or a play. 2 points establish a direction. The third can confirm it or confuse it. This is a lithograph by Daumier. He was possibly the most observant caricaturist of all time. It shows his scoundrel character, Robert Macaire, using 3 standard cups. Daumier painted the magician at least half a dozen times, always using 3 cups. Now let's consider the shape of the cups. Check the height and shape of the cups in many of the prints you have already seen. Invariably they are high, straight, they have a wide opening, high shoulder, deep ridge, and this enables the cups to be seen at a greater distance. This shape is not an aberration, it was the norm. Look at this caricature from 1870. These cups have straight sides, very wide mouth, a high ridge and a deep shoulder. This print by Grevin has very similar cups. This is the actor Vittorien Sardou. He was a friend of Sarah Bernhardt. And in this cartoon, you can see the same 3 cups. Let's look at a close-up. So the question I ask is why? There must have been a reason, and maybe we have over-improved the cups by altering the shape. This is a caricature of the King Louis Philippe. By definition, the components in caricatures are out of proportion. But look how the artist has remembered the scene. Large cups and contrasting loads. This contrast is an illusion that is helped by the shape of the cups. Surprise and contrast are the core of all good magic. Dumpy cups and dumpy loads have little contrast. They're too similar. Surely they are not as memorable as 3 high, straight-sided cups and 3 dumpy loads. But what about the material from which the cups were made? Metal sounds interesting and is robust. Tin was used in the early part of the 19th century, but alloys were used later on. The small balls were normally cork, and these were sometimes given an uneven covering of cloth, or they were stitched or crocheted to minimise the roll. One of the most important elements of the cups and balls trick is of course the load. This is a print by Carl Vernet. It was produced in about 1822, and it comes from a series of 100 prints of Cries of Paris. He was a renowned lithographer, was Carl Vernet, but I have to tell you I checked all 100 prints, and they pretty near all have the same face. This is a print of a wonderful street entertainer called Miette. He used to work in an artilleryman's jacket with his sleeves rolled up. Like all the other performers, he produced large multicoloured balls as loads. These were normally filled with horsehair. Miette also produced a potato and an onion, and these can just about be seen on the left-hand side of the table. Vernet's picture of Miette sums up our typical working magician. Look at the way he stands, he's in control. Look at the way he holds the ball. And look at his totally pissed off expression. Large multicoloured balls were not the only final loads by any means. Records show fruit and occasionally animals were used. Bozio drew this parlour show in 1807, which clearly suggests that a guinea pig or a hamster was part of the magician's act. Notice the straight-sided cups. He also did the reliable old soot-in-the-eyes heckler stopper. One of the other accessories used was a wand, although there is little information about this in the prints. Certainly it always played a part, and we can see it in many of the prints that we've looked at. Ken Brook used a bamboo stick because it wouldn't break, and he really punished it. Gazzo told me once that he used a drumstick wrapped around with electrician's tape. The magician that modelled for the politician Ledru Rollin, seen here escaping from government forces by jumping out of the back window of the Conservatoire of Arts and Métiers, was equipped with all the trappings of a street entertainer. He had a cloth bag to carry his props, he had a juggling umbrella, he had the gibissiere around his waist, he had the large multicoloured balls in the gibissiere, an hand falling out of the cups, and of course the wand, and he was dressed pretty distinctively. So what else can we learn from these old records? You know, what we have seen was good enough to earn a living. No pipe dreams, no theories from magic books, everything resulting from trial and error and handed down. Even the table, as you can see, was designed to be folded up and carried. It remained steady on an uneven surface. And the tablecloths, used to give an air of theatricality to the performance, but also used to deaden the sound and to reduce the momentum of the rolling balls. Look at this fabulous cotton chenille tablecloth with about a foot of patterning around the edge of it. Pure luxury. So what have we learned about the props that the old timers used to use? We've learned that they used 3 cups, instead of 2 or 4. So 3 is perhaps more interesting. We learned a little bit about contrast, not just the larger loads, but different loads. We've learned about the little balls that they use, not too heavy, not too light. We've learned that they used a cloth to stop the balls running off the table. And that a wand is important. These things were important then, and they're important now in this classic of magic. Come back to me later and we'll show you some actual examples of how to make the trick even more interesting.
The classically constructed set of cups allows for a variety of different maneuvers that add to the enjoyment as well as the deception of a good cups and balls routine. So here's a variety of cool cup moves you can sprinkle through your routine to spice things up. A cup can apparently pass through one cup or through 2 cups, if that's what you want to do. Holding the cup's mouth up in both hands, lower one cup into the mouth of the other. Since you're holding right at the lip of the cup, the top cup knocks the bottom cup from the opposite hand, then stops in its place. The dropping hand continues downward and can catch the other cup as if that were the cup it originally held, or you can just allow it to drop onto the table. Use the same actions if you're penetrating 2 cups with one. I saw Jay Marshall use an interesting bit of business once. After failing to penetrate the second cup, he tapped the center, then acted as if he loosened it just a bit before successfully completing the penetration. Di Vernon told me that he used to do it in a little different way. He would allow the cup to penetrate and then act as if he tightened it back and just set it down and just let them bite on that little bit of business there. The late S. Leo Horowitz added another bit of business to the penetration by adding a coin or coins to the picture. He drops them into one cup, then pours it back and forth. Next, he does the penetration, saying not only does the cup penetrate, but so do the coins. To pass your wand through the solid bottom of your cup, hold the cup with the mouth pointing towards the opposite hand, which is holding the wand. Your index fingers should be extended along the wand, which is poked against the inside bottom of the cup. After 2 or 3 taps, pull the wand back enough to allow it to slip behind the cup. As you again push it forward, this time just the index finger goes inside the cup, while the wand goes behind the cup, extending beyond it. The illusion that the wand has penetrated the cup is perfect, if only for a second or 2. Immediately pull the wand out and continue the routine. Of course, the same illusion could be created with 1, 2, or even 3 cups. Again, holding the cup mouth towards the hand holding the wand. This time the thumb is uppermost on top of the wand. Marking the wand with the thumb, you measure the inside depth of the cup. Now, as the left hand moves the cup up and off the wand, the right thumb moves down. In fact, it's the first thing that moves. And it just looks like the wand's being pulled out. But move the thumb down the wand to a deeper position. As you measure again, it seems as if the inside is impossibly deeper than the outside of the cup. A very simple technique will make it possible to show a ball as having appeared inside a cup which is actually empty. Holding the ball in finger palm, pick up the mouth down cup, and that same hand as close to the mouth of the cup as possible. As soon as the cup clears the table, release the ball and give the hand and cup a slight flicking action. This causes the ball to roll away from the hand and from under the cup. The illusion is that tapping the ball with the inside rim of the cup is what caused the ball to roll out. This illusion is even more effective if you use it to secretly add one ball to others that are already inside the cup. The classic design of a cup makes it possible to show what is inside a cup by flicking it backward so that it rolls all the way over. It's nothing extravagant, just an interesting way of showing a certain familiarity with your props. After performing one of the fake loading sequences, you can seem to pull the ball up through the cup, leaving it to sit on top of the cup. Beginning with the ball in finger palm position, approach the top of the cup and allow the ball to rest on top of the cup as you simulate the action of pulling something upward through the cup. The late Charlie Miller developed one of the most popular of the cool cup moves. Beginning with a ball secretly inside a cup, you place a ball on top of your fist, which goes on top of the cup. There's a coordinated movement of both hands as the top hand opens just enough to allow the ball to sink into the fist. At the same moment, the cup is lifted by the opposite hand. The effect is that a visible penetration of the ball through the cup. If the cup is on the table, you can give the lower ball a slight flick, giving the impression it's still moving from its passage through the cup. By setting the cup down with a dirty hand, you can clean up the ball you're holding out by loading it back into the cup. John Mendoza achieves the same result as the Charlie Miller move in a different way. Beginning with a secretly loaded cup, which also has a ball on top. You'll smash the top ball with your fist and allow the ball to go into the hand as you immediately show the ball inside the cup. And again, you can clean up the dirty hand by setting down the cup. Created by Horace Golden and first published by Carl Fulves in The Pallbearer, the late Frank Garcia probably did the most to popularize this striking vanish of a ball between two cups. With a ball between two cups, all you have to do is raise one cup enough to take the ball into it as the cups click together. It'll look like this. If you want to have a continuing sequence, you can use one of those moves that we had earlier to retain that ball inside of the cup and then reveal a ball in a separate cup as if the ball traveled invisibly from here over to the third cup. This method, for seeming to show the cups empty, simulates a well-known move with cards which is known as the frustration count. If you have something loaded into the bottom and or middle cups, you can use the frustration concept along with the inertia move to seem to show all three cups empty. What you're actually doing is showing the top cup empty while actually setting down the bottom cup. If done in a smooth, even fashion, there is just enough visual clutter to create enough of an illusion to be convincing. If you have a ball nested, you can seem to show that nest empty using the tip-off move. Here, as you tip the top cup over to show the ball gone, you allow the mouth of the cup to drag the ball over into the top cup. This move has been credited to Herb Morrissey and is also known as the Faco move. You could also do this move with both hands and two stacked balls. The right hand does the Faco with its ball, the left hand with its, and you use the little fingers to hold those balls inside those cups as you restack them. A natural extension of the Faco move is to drag the ball straight off the top of the lower cup as you move the upper cup to the table. When you drag the ball away by moving the cup laterally across, that's known as the galloping post move. you have a ball inside of a tabled cup, you can pick both the ball and the cup up for nesting in a couple of different ways. You could modify one of the cup steels we learned earlier to pick the ball up, such as the pinky hold inside. Or you could use a flick of the wrist to create enough centrifugal force to draw the ball inside the cup long enough for the cup to be quickly stacked. You could, of course, repeat that with 2 cups. This move could also work with 1, 2, or 3 balls, because the scooping action causes all of the balls to ride up inside of the rim of the lifted cup. There's certainly more magic and moves coming up, but let's refresh ourselves with another trip to England, where once again, Bob Reed will contribute to our broad, deep understanding of the cups and balls.
Now let's have a look at 1 or 2 cups that have been popular at various times over the last 100 years. This is the current favourite. It's a small cup, a dumpy cup, quite heavy, ergonomically designed, very useful for doing the tip over move, and particularly suitable for audiences that are a short distance. This is the cup that's been used between 1900 and 1950. It's a beaker-like cup with a very small rim. The best cup, or the best cup in my opinion, is one that was designed for Hofzinser around about 1870. The difference between this cup and the others are these. First of all, it's of course a bit higher, a bit longer than the small dumpy cup, and therefore can be seen at a greater distance. It's got a very high ridge and a very deep shoulder. The size of the load that you eventually get into any cup is dependent upon the diameter and the depth, and this shoulder achieves both. It has one further advantage, and that is that when you've produced the load, you have a greater contrast between the load itself and the top of the cup. This contrast is very important in allowing the trick to register with a wider audience. Let's talk for a minute about contrast. If I were to produce a ball like this, you get a great contrast between the edge of the cup and the ball. If I produce another ball like this, you get the surprise. But surely 3 balls that are all the same can't be as effective as if one ball was different. So not only do we get the effect of surprise, we get the effect of contrast in terms of shape and contrast in terms of an additional and rather odd load. Contrast is important. It adds to the surprise, keeps the audience running. Now let's talk about the type of loads. It's purely a personal opinion, but I think a load like this, which is man-made, is not as effective as a load of natural fruit. I also think that a load which is simply a larger example of the balls that are used are not as surprising as something that is totally incongruous. Furthermore, I think that 3 loads that are different have more impact than 3 loads that are the same. So all the time we're talking about building up surprises and building up contrast throughout the routine, and particularly of course at the end of the routine. I think it's important to consider everything in the cups and balls trick. So now let's have a look at the small balls that are used. Now, these are very popular. These are rubber balls with a very, very tight crochet. Unfortunately, they bounce quite seriously. These are the old cork balls which are traditionally used in the cups and balls from way back. They're very, very light. I think that's the problem with them. Don't bounce too much, but they're very light and quite unstable. This is one of the balls that I've been experimenting with more recently. In fact, it's the same material that is used around those jugglers' juggling balls, and it's also filled with millet seed in the same way. No bounce, quite heavy, and so on. This is an impromptu ball, which is actually very good. Quite heavy, not too much bounce, and this is made out of bread. I'll show you. Just take a loaf of sliced bread, take 3 slices. Look at that tokenism. Creeps in everywhere. Take the middle out of the sliced bread like this. Squeeze it up. And you're in business. That's it. You can get 3 of these anywhere, and 3 teacups, and you can do the trick. This is a modern day equivalent of the gibeciere, or the game bag. It's made out of soft leather. It's about 12-13 inches in depth. It's about 2 inches wide. 2 leather straps, which keeps it secure when you've got all your props in. There's a leather strap which goes around the waist, like this. And inside, there's 1 or sometimes 2 compartments or dividers, so you can keep the cups and balls in here and the loads in here, etc. But you can keep the entire act in the bag. When it's not around the waist, the leather strap actually can be unthreaded like this, and attached to these handles as a shoulder strap. So with your bag loaded, you're ready to walk out and work.
Routining could also be called structure or construction. Learning why a good routine for the cups and balls needs a valid opening, middle, and properly set up ending will provide you another set of skills that you can successfully transfer to other effects and other branches of magic. Routining isn't just putting a bunch of moves together in a series that end in a surprise. To maximize the impact of your ending, not only does your routine have to be carefully choreographed, you also have to consider how your opening logic, your personal character, presentation, and delivery all work together to create a total impact which is greater than the sum of its parts. Also, the sequences you select for the body of your routine should be constructed so that methods cancel out each other, making reconstruction virtually impossible. As one simple example of how the construction of your routine contributes to the overall effect, let's assume your routine ends with the surprising production of final loads inside the cups. It seems logical that the best way to surprise an audience with such an ending would be to make certain your earlier sequences are absolutely convincing that the cups are empty to begin with. Otherwise, there's no effect. For the experience of magic to register inside viewers' mind, they must believe something which just isn't so. For example, they must believe the ball is in your hand in order to be surprised when it's gone. And they have to believe the cups are empty in order to be surprised when ultimately they're full. That's what successful routining does. And that's another fundamental skill which can be exercised as you develop an understanding of the cups and balls. So make a habit of asking yourself the following questions, and this as well as other magical effects. How do you go into the move? How do you come out of the move? Is the front porch bigger than the meeting place? Or in other words, have you properly balanced each portion of your routine? And always remember, the impact of a routine doesn't hinge on what you're able to do, but more on what you can cause an audience to care about what is taking place. So present your routines in such a way that an audience might care about what they're watching. With the building blocks we've already covered, it'll be easy to construct a simple routine with a beginning, middle, and end, yet which uses only the most basic sleight of hand. Begin with only the most simple elements: 1 ball and 3 cups and 2 hands. All I have to do is blow, and the ball disappears, traveling invisibly back to this cup. I'll do it again. All I have to do is tap, and the ball travels invisibly back to this cup. Now, if I don't blow and I don't tap, nothing happens. But if just a tiny puff, and of course, again, it vanishes only to reappear inside the cup. Now, even more amazing is if I don't blow, but instead, if I just wave and tap, the ball doesn't just vanish, it multiplies. But now I'm going to make it 3 times as difficult by taking this ball and placing it into my pocket. Here, I'll even take this ball and place it back into the pocket. I'll even get rid of this ball and place it into the pocket. Now all I have to do is touch my pocket and a cup, my pocket and a cup, my pocket and a cup, and all 3 balls return. In this simple sequence, you begin 3 ahead by holding 1 in the right hand and nesting a ball between the bottom and middle cup and a ball between the middle and top cup, and you drop that final ball inside of the top cup. Begin by pouring the visible ball out and execute the frustration count and the inertia move as you place the 3 cups in a row. There's that first one. There's that second one. Now you'll load the final cup with the held out ball as you set it down. Then you'll execute the first of 3 fake transfers. As you show the arrival of each ball, you'll then load each cup. There's the second fake transfer. As it arrives, I'll load that cup. And finally, a 3rd fake transfer as the 3rd ball seems to appear. At this point, you'll do another fake transfer. And as you tap, you'll also tap these 3 cups. And at this point, you show 3 balls. Now you have several options for continuing at this point. I could load this held out ball as I set down this cup like this and just place these on top. And I could do a fake transfer as I seem to place this ball into the pocket. Now I'm going to do the tip overload. Okay, as I seem to place the second ball away. And again, I could just as easy be varying the technique by using the load that takes place by taking the ball from a cup and just load that finger-palmed ball as I set that one down. The 3rd ball you get to fairly place away. Then you tap and indicate the magic taking place as you have all 3 balls return. The power of curiosity creates natural misdirection during the performance of the cups and balls. And as magicians, we're obligated to milk any moment of misdirection for all the surprise and impact possible. So just what is misdirection? Where can you find it in the cups of balls routine? And how do you take advantage of it? Misdirection occurs not when we force people to look in the wrong place, but when people feel compelled, naturally, and of their own accord, to look in the wrong place. When people are forced to look someplace, they usually understand that whatever was accomplished was the result of their diverted attention. But successful misdirection is such that, as Erdnase would say, they don't even suspect that whatever happened was accomplished because they simply looked in the wrong place. Proper routining, timing, and construction become misdirection when viewers feel as if they were looking in the right place. Natural misdirection is built into the cups and balls because each effect usually depends on revealing what is underneath the cups. So it seems obvious that the right place to look is beneath the cup. Now, if you know 99% of the people are going to be looking there whenever you lift a cup, then just imagine all the things that might be going on someplace else at that moment. I'll show you what I mean with a simple routine constructed to take advantage of that moment to build a surprise ending into moves that we've already learned. Here we're going to start with 3 balls and 3 solid cups. All I have to do is take these balls, place them into my pocket just like this, and all I have to do is tap in 1, 2, and 3, and those balls return just like that. I'll do it again, only a different way this time. I'll place the ball here, and just like that, it goes straight, solid through solid. I'll do it again, a second time, and there, solid through solid. I'll do it yet a third time, only this time I'll place this ball into the pocket, and still, just like this, all 3 balls return. But this time I'm going to do it the hard way. I'll take these 3 and I'll place all 3 inside of my pocket. And if I tap and if I spin, this time something special happens. Now with this simple sequence, you're going to start out with 1 ball hidden in the bottom cup and 3 visible. Your final load is going to be in the left coat pocket. Or if you perform this sitting down, you just put that ball into your lap. Pour these 3 out, set them down. You'll do the frustration count and the inertia move. This time the ball will end up over here. Place these on top and just use the tip overload, holding out here, loading that cup as you tip it over, a fake transfer. Again, you've got this one here. Again, use the tip overload to load that one. This time, another fake transfer as you seem to place it away. And all 3 balls come back. Now this time, we're going to use the nesting principle to cause the penetrations to take place. You've got that one loaded here. This time, you'll do a penetration sequence. This time, that extra ball gets loaded back here as you place a second one. Now again, you're going to load the extra ball, so now there's 3 there. Okay? Only this time, as you nest these, you're going to place this ball into the pocket. And under cover of placing it into the pocket, you're going to take out that final load, which you'll hold inside of your hand. Timing is important here. As you come out of the pocket, the back of the hand will be facing forward just like this. The ball is just resting loosely in the left-hand finger palm. And as you pick up the cups to show the ball has arrived, all attention is going to be there because they want to see if the ball has arrived. And just as the hand exits the pocket, as you get it here, the ball simply goes inside of the cups, as you'll then hold it there with the little finger as you pick these 3 balls up. Set the cups down, place these into your pocket, do something that indicates the magic has taken place, and then show the final load. When I turned professional, I thought I would need a huge repertoire of material I could perform anytime, any place. As it turns out, I perform less impromptu now that I'm a full-time pro than I did when I was an active amateur. But regardless of your professional position in magic, every student of magic should at least study the cups and balls for its potential use in social situations. The theatrical elements inherent in the effect are such that if you're ever caught with an audience demanding magic, you'll at least have the option of closing strong with an impromptu performance of the cups and balls. Well, what with you and everyone else at the party insisting that I do magic, and me with no props, I'm glad you loaned me these 3 cups. Now, I realize that you said these weren't antiques, and that's okay, but I'm going to be careful anyway.
Okay.
But I don't know if you noticed that I got 3 grapes out of your refrigerator.
No, I didn't.
See, the good news is, even if you don't like what happens, we'll still have a nice snack at the end. Okay? So here's what happens. What I do is I take the grapes and I take the magic wand. And I do a little magic wave and a tap.
Wow.
No, I didn't sever my hand, but the grape does disappear. Now, you probably didn't know what to look for, so I'll do it again. Exactly the same way, just a little more gentle with that tap. Now, this time, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm not going to use the wand. All I'm going to do is blow. And not only does that grape disappear, but it travels invisibly back to its cup. And that grape arrives as well, and so does that one. Now, we're going to do something with all of them. What we'll do is we'll place each grape inside of its cup, just like this. And I'll take the wand and I'll wave. And just a tap. Something very magical happens as these travel invisibly to join the one in the center. I think I know what the problem is.
What's the problem?
Too many grapes. Too many grapes. I can understand. You got so many things to follow, and I'm talking all the time. So I'll get rid of one of the grapes. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get rid of 2 of the grapes.
Okay.
Okay? And all you'll have to follow is this one grape right here. That should be pretty easy. Now watch how amazing this grape is. Because if I put this visibly into my pocket and I just tap, that grape travels all the way back to that cup. I'll do it again, only this time to prove that this grape is ambidextrous. I'll put it into my right pocket. Just another tap like that, and again, it travels back to its cup. One last time, now that you know what's going to happen, I'll place this one inside the pocket, just a tap, and again, it comes back to its cup. But this time, I want to end with a surprise. So I'm going to bring these 2 back out. Now, I'll use all 3 for something very magical. Hold out your hand for me. There you go. And I'm going to place all 3 inside of here. Close your hand. I'm going to give you the wand. Be very careful.
Okay.
Wave it and gently tap, and they disappear.
No, they're still there.
Oh, they did?
They didn't.
I saw you tap, and I know the wand does something. Let's see. Oh no, there, and there. Why, by golly, not only do we have some magic, but we can have us a salad here to conclude things.
That's great. That's really great.
Once you've mastered the final load, you'll be just as comfortable loading with the left hand as with the right hand. In this particular routine, I loaded 1 with my left hand from my left coat pocket, and I loaded 2 with my right hand from my right coat pocket. Could just as easily have been all 3 with the left hand or all 3 with the right hand. And you can begin with your final loads either in your coat pockets, your back pants pockets, or in your lap if you're going to be seated. In this case, I begin with 1 in the left pocket and 2 in the right. I had the 4th extra grape in my right hand finger palm, and as I was showing the cups, I, as soon as possible, loaded that into the first cup so that I could be free and comfortable to show my hands empty and the cups as I then placed these 3 on top of these cups. Now, I don't have to do a tip overload with this first one because it's already in there, so I could just pick it up and do a fake transfer, or if you want to be consistent, you can go ahead and simulate the tip over movements. Do a fake transfer, and make it vanish, and now using the tip over, I'm going to load this cup, as the grape falls into the left hand. Again, fake transfer, and the final ball vanishes. Now, as you are considering the possibility of doing a cups and balls routine impromptu, be aware of how the location of the cup handle might affect your techniques. Also, having something to use as a wand will always help cover your vanish, particularly in the less formal social settings where people might feel free to interject or to ask questions. As the grapes return, I secretly load the extra grape into the middle cup. With the grapes in front of each cup, I'll now do the scoop to retain the first grape in my right hand while I apparently load it into its cup. Now I'm going to add that grape to this one, making 3 inside the middle, and again I'll do another scoop for the final cup. Make the magic happen and show these two have vanished, and as I set this down, I'm going to clean up that right hand by loading that cup as I show all 3 grapes in the center. Now at this point, I could put them back onto the top and do the tip overload, or I could put the balls, or the grapes in this particular case, inside the cups and just do the elimination sequence. But let's assume that we've got them on top like this. I'll take the first one and apparently put that into the pocket. As I do the tip overload here, I'll load this as I apparently get rid of this one. And finally the third grape. Now the third grape you take visibly to the pocket where you're going to steal that first load. This provides the misdirection that you'll need to secretly take that load out, and as this grape is revealed, you add the first load to the first cup. Now I'm just using these fingers here to retain that inside as I set the cup down. I take the second grape to the pocket. Again, still a final as you show that grape and you load the second cup. In this particular case, I'm just holding it in with the little finger as I set the cup down. I take the third grape, and finally, I still the third final load as I show the third grape, and I load the cup at the same time. Now I'm going to reintroduce 2 grapes so that I can then engage the spectator in the final part as I give them the grapes, have them do the magic, only to finally reveal the 3 pieces of fruit to conclude. In our brief time together, we've covered the fundamentals of our topic in a complete and systematic way. Now, you've got the tools. On Volume 2, we'll learn the classic sequences that open, maintain, and conclude some of the greatest routines of all time. We'll also talk about theatrical elements that punctuate and magnify the impact of everything we perform. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, as the professor used to say, be natural.